Hi, I'm Larry Roy, another best friend. Is this working?
Mm-hmm. Try a little louder.
It's funny listening to some of the stories. I have another story about how Dyke got his name. He told me his grandmother wanted to name him that. So maybe he was lying to all of us, I don't know. And once he told me that, it kind of stuck. And also, he spelled it D-I-Y, not D-Y-K-E, it was D-I-Y. Gail, I was with you the day you were smoking. I was there and so was Tammy, the dog. We're all on the side of the garage. You don't remember me being there though, do you? You can't hear me, can
She
you?
can't hear break.
Okay, well, the one story I wanted, well, I got three stories. When Mrs. Addis died, or no, when they put her in the nuns nursing home, John decided to put the house up for sale, and I was a realtor at the time. And he said, you want to list my mom's house? I said, sure. So we went over there and looked at it. Well, when he was younger, he pulled that 59 Ford in to the garage too far, and he knocked the back wall out. So it was hanging off the cement. I said, the inspector's gonna see this, we gotta fix this. So we went about and fixed it and fixed the roof. Another story was when Dyke was in the play. What was it, Gus? The Russian play? I forget the name of the play in high school.
Mikado, that was Japanese.
What was it?
Mikado.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, John's the leading guy. Mike, Christine was the leading actress. And there was a queue where I was just a Russian soldier, and all of us were in the wings. And when there was this queue, we would all come out of the wings and sing a song or something, I don't remember. Anyway, I heard the wrong, I thought I heard the cue. And I went out on the stage and nobody followed me. And here's Dyke and Christine out on the front of the stage, and in front of me is a little wrought iron chair. Well, the light's dim and the light comes right on the wrought iron chair. And they're moving over here. I gotta get the hell off the stage. And I was froze. You know, I went out there and I stopped and I didn't know what to do. So I just went backstage and they came to the chair. And the last story, it's funny how it all seems to tie together. Mike, those army men, I didn't witness this, but Dyke told me he used to set them up in the tree on a branch and put lighter fluid on them and set them on fire and shoot them out of the tree with his BB gun.
Absolutely true.
Now, I never saw him do that, but he told me he did that, and I thought, this is the weirdest guy I ever met. That's all I got for you, folks.
I'm Denise. I was his sister-in-law for, I don't know, long time. And they were always really, Linda and Dyke always had us over for Thanksgiving every year. They were very great hostesses, and Johnny would always play the piano, and it was always a good time to go to their house for Thanksgiving. And I always looked forward to also that, you know, I mean, John was a hippie. When I was a young teenager, I first met him, and I thought they were the coolest hippies. You know, they were the original hippies. There's a lot of people who say they're hippies now, but they were the original hippies. I was always proud of that my sister and her husband were the original hippies. But his views, political views, didn't match that in my mind. I was a liberal. So it was a good time every Thanksgiving to have political discussions, and you know, I will give this to him. I think he developed my ability to debate civilly. You know, he never ended the conversation. Never said, "Well, you know, I'm not going to talk about it." You know, he always was good at debating. Well, one year he always went on with the tradition of Thanksgiving, and my sister got into a bad car accident, which he was very worried about her and very attentive, and he still wanted to make dinner. So he decided to make mashed potatoes, and he didn't cook the potatoes all the way, so they wouldn't mash. So he put them in a blender to make the mashed potatoes, and of course that didn't work out, but they were always wonderful hostess. Thank you.
I'm Rich Little, and John played in my band, Midnight Special Band. Midnight Special was originally the Blue Ridge Band, and we were playing for a couple of years because we were doing just predominantly country. And we were playing at the Post-War American Legion, and we were bringing in so much rock and roll, and we were starting to do some blues, and we were starting to do some other genres of music, and we had started to play in other bars and other places that we were at, the Midnight Special, but we did it in our own way. We had our own arrangement, and it was John's arrangement, and he always wanted just to sing it himself. Well, I wanted to put in the blues kind of intro on it. And John would sing a phrase and I would sing a phrase. And then he would sing a phrase and I would sing a phrase. And we played, and finally we got it fine-tuned so that we had that song cooking. And I mean, people would just go nuts over our version of Midnight Special. That's why it was, we changed the name to Midnight Special Band, and that's the way it was for the next 18 years. And we played all over this state. I had signed up with Premier Productions, and we played the state fair. We played the first 3 years of the Hoedown down in Detroit. And Chet Williams was our lead man, and Chet is excellent. He's playing with another band now, and we would always park and everything back where the tour buses were for the the so-called stars, and that's where we were parked, and we had played a double set because one of the bands that was supposed to be there never showed up. So we played a whole hour. We played an hour and a half, really. And we come off the stage and everybody was wanting us to go back. And so we walked down to where our cars are, and Chet says, "Oh no." And I said, "What's wrong?" He says, somebody busted out the back of my window on my car. And so we go over to it. He says, "Damn it." He said, "They stole my case." He said, "I'd rather they stole my guitar than the case." Because he had all his music. He had a book that he kept with everything that if changes in our arrangements or changes in chording or the way he was addressing a song. And that was the last time that we played down there. And every time we went to play in Detroit anywhere, it was always Chet would ride with me in my van because I had the PA, I had my drums, and we were always playing. And then Chet didn't want to play as often as we were playing. We played at the Hob and Knob that later became the Cracker Jack. It's on Gratiot at 14 Mile, just north of 14 Mile. It was it used to be the Clinton Township Police Station. And in the basement of the Clinton Township police station is where they had the cells. And that's where the Hobnob kept all their booze and beer and everything that they used upstairs. And that's where I kept my cases. My drum cases were down there. And John came downstairs to, I had more music. I had a big case of music. And we were looking for a song that somebody had requested. And he stood there and he says, I don't think I've ever been in this jail. we got a gig at the Mount Clemens Moose Lodge, and they were upstairs. Well, it was 3 flights of stairs, and I wanted to know how much that piano weighed, and I forget where we went to find out how much this thing weighed. And it came out 684 pounds or something like that. And this was in my head. And so here we are at the Mount Clemens Moose, and I go upstairs. I had brought some of my drum up there in the cases, and I went over and I asked these guys at the bar if they would help us carry this up. And they said, sure. They said, we'll give you a hand, no problem. They come downstairs, and I'm on one end of it, John's on the other end, and these guys just picked this thing up. They said, get out of the way. And they just walked up the stairs with this piano. We're playing, and for some reason, somebody in the audience, this woman stands up in the audience, and she throws her underwear on the stage. And Joni just picked it up and hung it on my bass drum. By the end of the night, we had 22 pairs of underwear. And John was a good guy. I miss him. And I wish to heaven he'd have never quit the band.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Rich.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me all right? When I got word last week about John's passing from Jan Skoronsky, I was thinking about the impact that John had on my life. And to introduce myself, my name is Gary Gunst, and I first met John in 1985. We go way back then when I was teaching junior high at St. Brendan's School in Detroit. And all through my career at St. Brendan, I typically had a number of different partners along the way in the junior high department. And sure enough, there was an opening, and lo and behold, John got hired. So we were partners together for 5 years, and following that 5-year tenure with him, I became principal of the school. So it was another 4 years, as he affectionately called me then, boss. So anyway, when I was thinking about John, I was thinking the word relationship sort of came to mind. And just by a show of hands, by all of you who are here, how many of you remember the name of your kindergarten teacher? A few, anyway. Okay. It's amazing how, when you think about different relationships, when we're talking about man and wife, we're talking about children and their parents, you talk about sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, cousins, and so on. And there's also a relationship that we developed through the years, a student to teacher. And it's that particular thinking and line that I was most remembering about John. And if you think back at the time, and I think Mike Novak would know more about this too, along with me, when you're teaching junior high, people look at you in a funny way and say, are you crazy? Teach that age group, 12, 13, 14 years old. And if you think back, somewhere along the line, somebody had to teach us at that age too. So it takes kind of a special person, not only to be a junior high teacher, but to be any kind of a teacher, whether you're talking about primary, whether you're talking about middle school, whether you're talking about high school, whether you're talking about college. And it's just an interesting thing to look back and say, what was your relationship? What do you remember most about your most favorite teacher or your favorite teacher? And you think back and you think, well, there's something about that person that is more than just an instructor. It's a person who probably changes your life over a period of time. So I'd like to just give you a couple of thoughts here about perhaps what John and I looked forward to each day that we taught. He was a guy that I could always depend upon for being a partner, for being a person that was humorous, and we had good days and we had some bad days. I don't mean about bad days with each other, but sometimes the kids weren't always perfect. So anyway, and speaking of junior high, the key word that comes to mind about junior high is puberty. I taught for 23 years, so that meant I went through puberty 24 times. So anyway, just a couple of thoughts here to end up. Teachers come and go, but every so often one comes along that you will always remember. One who makes learning an adventure and who can still remember what it's like to be young and growing up. The kind that can make you want to be the very best you can be. Someone who can really talk to, who really cares what happens to you. And John, that person is you. If you look at the word teacher, if you remember, for some of you who are old enough to remember the song called Mother, M-O-T-H-E-R, and M is for the many things you gave me and so on, okay. So there's also something that you could apply to the term teacher. T is for the talented that you surely are. E is for explaining so patiently. A is for the ability to make class fun. C is for correcting us when we were wrong. H is helping us in every way. E is for encouraging us to do our best. R is for rare. There's only one of you. And just this last set of thoughts. John, you're just a teacher. It isn't much, but look at the lives and the hearts you've touched. You didn't choose to teach for gold, but open minds and lives to mold. You had knowledge, you chose to share. You always know you really cared. So many things your kids learn to do through daily lessons and watching you. In your eyes we saw a glow as you watch your students learn and grow. Your hand was there to point the way and help them learn to work and pray. When your students were faced with a test, you'd say to them, just do your best. Your heart was one that understood. With whispered words, I knew you could. You opened up your minds to many things, encouraging them to spread their wings. And through your eyes, they learned to see the good people that they could someday be. You were a teacher, John. It isn't much, but look at the lives and hearts you've touched. There you go, sister.
Hey, John.
Chris.
I just want to mention one thing. I have here the recommendation letter that Gary Gunst wrote to my dad for the St. Paul job. And I have this because he made sure that we all got copies of this letter. I won't read the whole thing. There's one line. He uses a variety of novel approaches to learning and literally makes his classes come alive with enthusiasm. His students are as excited about learning because he is a master educator. My dad used that phrase, master educator, to describe himself from this moment forward. And when he was butting heads with the new principal, maybe, of St. Paul, he's like, but I'm a master educator. It says right here. So I still have this, probably 20 copies of this recommendation letter in his house.
Stuff on your sides.
Hello, my name is Gus. I met Dyke, I've been with him for 60 years. And I'm only gonna do this till I start crying, then we gotta quit. But I found him a funny guy, but it was making fun of him, which I had most fun with him. I wasn't smarter than him, so I had to work the other angle. But I've been a boat bum for 30 years. And he finally came down and visited us, and Larry, he got them all ready for it. He looked like Tom Hanks in Joe versus the Volcano, all dressed up in African gear, and it was a sight to see. But he hated heat, and we took him on a sailboat for 3 weeks, and he got so broke out we had to keep his feet in a bucket of ice. And there were seagulls. They're called laughing gulls, and they come by and say, they're laughing at you, man, they're laughing at you. And we took them to Morgan's Bluff, which is where Captain Morgan supposedly hid his treasure. So we went into this cave. We were about, I don't know, a half mile, maybe half mile into it. And I said, I don't want to do this no more. He said, just a little bit further. And there must have been 200 bats that came screaming out of this cave while we're in there. And of course, with my height, I freaked out, stood up, knocked my ass out. And I'm making fun of him. I mean, I don't get it. But he's a good friend. He's always has been a good friend. And all I can say is I love him. Pals.
Thank you, Gus.
Thanks, Gus. I found this old recording. And it's a song that my dad wrote before I was born, and it's called Epitaph. And it is it's not about a person dying, but it's kind of a very sci-fi, fictional thing. But I thought it was appropriate because it combined a lot of loves that my dad had, from music to piano to singing to science fiction to poetry to everything else. And of course, it's called Epitaph. And one of the neatest things about this recording, again, I have no idea what this recording is for. I don't know anything about it. But his dad introduces him on the recording. And my grandpa died when I was 5. And I had no memory of what he sounded like until I found this tape. So I'll leave you with a very, very strange 70s song written by my dad before I was born. And hope you like it, and hope I'm not embarrassing him too much by playing it.
This song is written by my son. I hope you enjoy it. His name is John Addis.
Epitaph. Was it a dream, or was there once a time that men lived free? Or is this just a delusion of mine? Did he play among the meadows? Did he gaze upon the sun? He must not have known what he was doing. Were there really rivers that rolled over valleys to green seas? I've heard the the stories that there was a time when he stood amid the children and laughed beneath the stars. He must not have seen what he was viewing. There are fables of forests that lifted their branches to blue skies. I've seen the places they're said to have stood. I stared upon the pavement and touched the concrete walls. No one even stopped to see me crying. Tell me the tales of turtles and eagles and sunrise. Long before nature was wrapped in a shroud, he failed to hear the flowers and he could not feel the stars. He must not have known that he was dying. Was it a dream, or was there once a time that man lived free? Or is this just a delusion of mine? Did he play among the meadows? Did he gaze upon the sun?